Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to start a series in addition to my other videos where we're going to start from Surah Al-Baqarah and just read through and discuss the Quran. Usually I pick a topic and I elaborate on that specific topic. And I'm still going to do those kind of videos too, but I'm going to start this series today where we start at Baqarah and kind of translate as I go and discuss the verses. I might not discuss every single thing in the verses, but I'll just highlight whatever comes to mind, like without a lot of preparation, just like a general conversation about the verses as we recite them. So you ready? Alif Lam Mim ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. So starting this surah Al-Baqarah, it starts with the letters Alif Lam Mim, and we could probably elaborate a whole video about those, and I think I do have actually a whole video just about that, about what they call. So these letters and the letters that are at the beginnings of certain surahs like Taha, Alif Lam Ra, etc. They call them al-huruf al-muqatta'at. They call them the disjointed letters. And I get why they call them the disjointed letters, because on the surface they appear to be just three letters that aren't connected together in a word, so technically they're disjointed. But personally, I think that kind of has a bad sound to it when you call them disjointed, because it sounds like almost like purposeless. And nothing in the Quran is without purpose. So that's the first thing. When you get into all of the different discussions about the interpretation of these letters, Alif Lam Mim, and the other letters at the beginnings of certain surahs, you find various interpretations, and you find some that say only Allah knows the meaning of these letters. None has the ability to know the meaning of these letters. However, I disagree with that point because, ultimately, Allah knows best always, first and last. But the reason I disagree with the point of people who say that only Allah knows the meaning of these letters is because the whole Quran is to be contemplated. Allah says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنِ. Do they not contemplate the Quran? So he didn't say أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ بَعْضَ الْقُرْآنِ. Do they not contemplate some of the Quran? He said, do they not contemplate the Quran as a whole? So I believe that the entire Quran in all its parts should be contemplated, including Alif Lam Mim. So therefore, Allah didn't put anything in His book that we don't have access to contemplate and at least derive some meaning from. Even though we don't know the complete totality of the meaning, only Allah knows that, but at least be able to derive some meaning from. So that's number one. Alif Lam Mim, I also heard one person, and I like this. I'm not exactly sure if this was this person's own terminology that they constructed or they got this from somewhere else, but he called them al-huruf an-nuraniyya, the letters of lights, or the illuminating letters. And I think that's, to me, way more beautiful than calling them al-huruf al-muqatta'at, the disjointed or the cut letters. So then, what is the meaning of Alif Lam Mim? Like I said, there's different theories about that. The theory that I personally incline to is that Alif Lam Mim represent a code that Allah, not just Alif Lam Mim, but the other letters too, Taha, Sad, Noon, Alif Lam Mim, Ra, etc., represent a code that was given to the Prophet, and he was able to decode that, and from that process of decoding was able to bring out to us the Quran. And why I think that that way of thinking about it is very powerful, because if you look at some of the verses that follow these letters, like here, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. Alif Lam Mim, that is the book. So there's discussion, like even here, about why does this verse start with ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ? That is the book. Because in Arabic, this is what is called ismul ishara. It's the noun of pointing to something. Ismul ishara. It's the noun of pointing to something. So in Arabic, we have two kinds of nouns, asma'ul ishara, that are used to point to things. We have ismul ishara lil ba'id wa ismul ishara lil qarib. We have the noun of pointing to something that is far and the noun of pointing to something that is near. So pointing to something that is far is like saying that. Like if I said that is over there. Pointing to something near is saying this, hada in Arabic. So there's discussion in terms of like why didn't Surah Al-Baqarah start with hada al-kitab, right? This is the book. Why not say hada al-kitab instead of saying dhalika al-kitab? That is the book, as if it's pointing to something far away. What is it pointing to that's far away? So, based on this interpretation of Alif Lam Mim, that is what it's pointing to. Dhalika al-kitab. Alif Lam Mim. Those letters, in other words, are the book. And Allah knows best. There's other interpretations, but like I said, reading through the Quran and discussing it as we're going to be doing in these videos, I'm not like in my regular videos or in my lives, I usually try to prepare and kind of think about the topic and think about the points I want to make. But I want these series of videos to be organic, where we're just sitting like as if we're just sitting on the porch reading the Quran together, and just having a discussion. Does that make sense? So ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. That is the book. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There's no doubt in it. No رَيْب in it. So it's interesting too that there's two very common words that are used in the Quran for doubt. There's at least another I can think of. There might even be more that is used for doubt too. But these two common ones you'll see a lot in different discussions. The word raib and the word shak. You'll see a lot of times people talk about what's the difference between the word raib and the word shak. And I think like different people give different, again, explanations from it. Raib, a lot of times they would explain as being not just doubt, but something that disturbs you, something that's disturbing. So la rayba fi, right? La rayba fi is saying not just that there's no doubt in it, there's nothing in it that should be doubtful in a disturbing way. Like it just is not just doubtful, but in a way that's just like I can't wrap my mind around that. Or it's just something that like bothers you, right? And I have a little bit personally longer explanation of the difference between the two, because like shak, according to that explanation, would be just like intellectual doubt, like just lack of knowledge or lack of information, right? And you just need further information. So that's one way of thinking about raib and shak, right? So la rayba fihi, in this book you don't have any of that, is what, or in that book, because I said this but it says that, you don't have any of that. And then when you continue, La rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin, it's a guidance to those who have taqwa. It's a guidance to those who have taqwa. So here, even though in other places in the Quran you might find wordings like hudan lil nas, a guidance for all people, but here it's an emphasis on hudan lil muttaqin, for those who have taqwa. And what is taqwa? Why is it a guidance for those who have taqwa? So the word taqwa, we can take it back to the root word waqaya, which means to protect. So the root meaning of taqwa in Arabic is to protect. So although a lot of times it's translated as God consciousness or God fearing or something like that, but perhaps it's more of a state of protective discipline, right? That you remain in certain boundaries in order to protect yourself. Because in the Quran, taqwa is not always just taqwa of Allah. There's ayat, for example, fattaqun nar, right? Have taqwa of the fire. So what? Guard yourself, protect yourself. So it's a protective quality. And inshallah, I see the time is ticking on this video. So that's the beginning of our discussion / translation of the Quran from Baqarah to the end. Inshallah, join us. Salamun alaykum.